Welcome to the All Jammed Up podcast presented to you by Music Never Stopped. Today is Monday, July 14th, and today on the show we have Zach Nugent.
What are you doing, podcast for lot?
Yeah.
Come be on a lot podcast.
Yeah, hell yeah, All Jammed Up.
This dude's doing a podcast. If you want to be on some podcast, come give an interview.
Hell yeah.
All
Good morning, fools. Welcome to the All Jammed Up podcast presented to you by Music Never Stopped. Today's Monday, July 14th, and I'm your host, Clint Dotson. It's the All Jammed Up Fest week, guys. Our first event this weekend in Asheville, One World Brewing West, Kendall Street, Sons of Stars, Shed Bugs, and Pickety Split, all alumni of the podcast. It's going to be a fucking blast. And if you haven't bought your ticket yet, pause the episode, go to the bottom. There's a link to the tickets. Go buy yourself one. But today on the podcast, we have Zach Nugent. He played in JGB for a little bit. We learned that story. He's now in Zach Nugent's Dead Set, his own little supergroup, Cotter from Goose. He was in that band a couple years ago, too. So they were sick. I saw them in like 2023 in St. Pete, and that was like one of my favorite iterations of the Dead of all time. They were so good. So it kind of came full circle that we got to interview him, and they're playing a show. His group's playing a show at the Ecology Center, which is a venue Music Never Stops works with. So that will be a sick show if all my West Coast people try to catch it if you can. But yeah, let's get right into the interview with Zach Nugent.
Hey, it's happening! Everybody stay calm!
What's the
Everybody
procedure,
stay calm.
everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
No, those are the good ones.
Saw you guys with Dead Set. I think Cotter was the drummer. And this is back in like 2023 in your guys' Hell in a Bucket tour in Florida.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was, to this day, still probably one of my favorite iterations of the Grateful Dead. You guys were fast-paced, tight,
Yeah.
crushing it. So,
That's so nice, man. Thank you.
yeah, so I was stoked when we were able to get this worked out. As everybody who listens to the podcast knows, we partner with Music Never Stopped. And Zach, it's not really a band. It's kind of like a product of different people playing at the Ecology Center, right?
Yeah, that's right. There's a whole bunch of us from different acts. Some of us have played together, and some of us haven't. I think most of us have played together, but certainly some of us haven't before. And I love these kind of events because that's like speaks so truly to the nature of the Grateful Dead music. Is like it's such a cool and thorough and a fun songbook to explore with either bandmates that you've played with for 15 years or people you're just meeting and never jammed with before. And it's so cool to see what unfolds from this music that we all know and love so much.
Yeah, I want to do a deep dive kind of more into that, and I want to learn more about the Ecology Center because out here on the East Coast, I haven't been out there yet. But before we do all that, I just kind of want to rewind and kind of hear when you started playing guitar.
Yeah, sure. Excuse me. I started playing guitar when I was 12. 36 now. And I'd always loved music. I come from not a performance musical household, but a household with lots of a very musical place. And my family weren't musicians, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But we always had music of some sort playing. And before I was 12, in elementary school or whatever, I played violin and clarinet and piano for
Okay.
the school year or whatever, and nothing really ever took. And as far back as I can remember, it was Jerry's guitar that I heard in my head, when I laid down in bed at night or when I was middle of school, anything. I think my second grade, yes, my second grade graduation card is Dancing Bear themed. And so literally just since the beginning of my memory, it's been Grateful Dead. And so when I was 12, we walked into a guitar shop, and I walked in with my parents, and they rented guitars for like $19.99 a month, which is like a really great thing. I didn't realize, I don't think none of us realized at the time that you could just rent guitars, but what a cool way to get into stuff, because my parents after three other instruments, if I was like, hey, I want this $600 guitar, they probably would have been more hesitant than $20 a month. So, what a cool thing that this shop in Hanover, New Hampshire did, Hanover Strings. And so I grabbed a guitar and went home and learned Ripple that day, which for those musicians out there know it's a pretty, um, technically and chordally, it's a very simple song. And so that's it. I was off to the races.
So you you were always a big Grateful Dead, Jerry Garcia fan before you even picked up a guitar.
Yeah, yeah, as a little kid.
Okay, and that was from your parents?
Yeah, but my parents aren't like classic Deadhead hip. You know, they don't have. It's not like the Dead was the only thing playing in the house all the time. They listened to all kinds of music. My mom is huge into Beatles and Motown, and like that was her scene. She saw the Beatles a bunch of times, and so while in some ways it was like the opposite end of the spectrum to have that kind of music playing. It's also right in the wheelhouse because, as you know, and like so many people know, the JGB repertoire is Beatles and Motown or whatever.
Yeah.
So it all overlaps. But no, I was exposed to reggae and world music and bluegrass and lots of classical. Just as much as the Grateful Dead, or maybe almost as much as the Grateful Dead. And so it was never like I came from like a Grateful Dead household. I just, for whatever reason, that's what stuck with me from a really young age. Now, I mean, I know a thousand reasons why that stuck with me. Not for whatever reason, but for many reasons it stuck with me from a young age.
Do you think like is there a certain like moment or certain thing that sticks out to why that maybe you gravitated towards the Grateful Dead over all these other musical options that were around you at that time?
No, there's not. Well, it's like it's sort of like meta in and of itself because no, there's not like a specific moment or like one certain thing that hooked me. But like at the same time, that like not knowing exactly what hooked me or like what moment is kind of the nature of the whole
Mm,
Dead universe, right? Like
yeah.
I guess I just got on the bus. Like I can't say exactly what it was, which is not I'm not unique in that experience, you know.
Okay.
I think I've asked a lot of people like, what was it? Same question. What was it for you about the Dead? And people are like, I don't know, but like not being able to put my finger on it kind of was the thing, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to
which
put
is
it.
cool. There's just so many layers to the Dead verse and the music itself, and it just like I think without having to go too deep on it or without having to look too far in the catalog, it just means it's easy to find something quickly that means so much to so many people. Um, and I think I didn't figure out the lyrics until much later. Like as a kid, when I was 5, I wasn't being like, "Oh my God, Robert Hunter's lyric," you know.
Yeah.
Um, so it was it was initially Jerry's guitar for me, and I think like I've always found the songwriting and like the chord changes and the melodies, like Garcia's melodies, um, to be very very comforting. You know, like uh, not predictable necessarily because Jerry's playing is sometimes so unpredictable and so left field, but it works so well. And even when it is so left field, it's so comforting and makes so much sense to me. And I don't know if that's unique to me. I imagine not, but there's still, you know, knowing as much as I do, I don't know a ton about music theory or guitar, but knowing what I do now, it still is like a lot of things that Jerry does or a musician does make a lot of sense, but still Jerry will throw something in that just like on paper kind of makes no sense, but it works so well. And I think however my 5-year-old brain processed that, it made sense to me then too, and just it felt good,
Okay.
you know?
So so 12 years old, got your guitar, learned Ripple. Um, what was that progression like of becoming a very talented guitar player? Like, was it kind of quick for you? Were you playing in like garage bands first, or was it all kind of dead centric?
Oh, thanks so much. That's so nice, man. I first I hadn't really played with anybody, and I was playing a lot of acoustic. I still play a lot of acoustic. I own more acoustic guitars than I do electric. I really it's funny people don't always know this about me, but I'm really I really love acoustic guitar. And so that's what I leaned into very heavily. I was trying to learn Garcia centric stuff, but not always on electric. And I used to walk around my high school, from the time I was a freshman to a senior, I was getting in trouble for like using my free periods or sometimes class periods, just walking around the hallways playing guitar. Um, and and that's what everyone remembers about me. Like people who don't remember me from high school or whatever, like, oh yeah, you were the kid, like the barefoot kid walking around playing guitar during study hall. And so there was a band among the staff at the high school I went to for freshman year, and the custodian was the guitarist, and he moved to Alaska, or he went to Alaska for the summer, and that's when most of their gigs happened. And so they would see me walking around the hallway playing. I was 15, and they asked me if I wanted to gig with them for the summer, and I'd never
That is
been on
badass.
stage. Yeah, it was awesome. It was great. And at the time, like now looking back, it was like small time, whatever, just like teachers playing these small little summer gigs,
Yeah.
patio gigs or whatever. But at the time, I was like, oh my God, I'm playing concerts. This is crazy. And and it was a lot of fun. I remember the bass player, he was the only non-faculty member, and he was really skeptical. He was sort of like curmudgeonly, and great upright bass player. And it was all bluegrass stuff that these guys played. And we played this one gig. I guess after the first, like we would rehearse in his kitchen and go over some songs. And he was like, I don't know, this kid is like, sounds like he's been playing for 3 years. I don't know. And he pulled me aside one night after like our second or third gig, and apparently I still can't imagine it was very good. But he pulled me aside, and apparently I played a wonderful solo on Rocky Top, and
Nice.
he was like, you sold me. He's like, you sold me, kid. I don't care how old you are, where you came from, or whatever. I still like I would cringe to hear 15-year-old me playing a guitar solo on Rocky Top, but something spoke to him, and he approved. So it's funny, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I was. It's funny. I think of myself as like the world's okayest guitarist. I don't think I'm an amazing, wonderful, incredible guitarist. It's like the music just speaks to me. Maybe I'm more tapped into like the soul side, or like the emotion of it. Like there's so many guitarists. Most guitarists can play circles around me. At least technically. And so yeah, I don't know. It's very kind of you to compliment my guitar playing, but I think probably what I hear the most in my playing, and maybe what John, that bass player, heard was me doing my best to tap into some sort of emotional connection or some sort of spiritual something or other, and let it out through the strings.
That is so funny, man, that you hear like I do a lot of these interviews and people are like, "Yeah, I was in garage bands and then I was classically trained like in the orchestra." And it's like I was in a band with some teachers from my school and a custodian. That's pretty
Yeah,
funny.
dude. As actually, I have a pattern of this. It's funny. My first real band that like really gigged was with my driver's ed teacher. He I'm just realizing right now that my first two bands are with my teachers. We used to have to log hours. We'd have to drive like I don't know what it was, a couple hours a week. We had to log 40 hours over 6 months or something, or whatever it was.
Hmm.
And I was like obsessively. I also have a pretty like obsessive and like pretty addictive personality, I guess. And so this was like channel. I don't drink. I've never had a drink. I don't really partake in any much extracurricular stuff. And and so like, when all of my friends were starting to party in high school and like breaking into their parents' booze stash or smoking weed or whatever, that wasn't of much interest to me. And so I would like spend most of my waking time obsessively downloading Grateful Dead concerts from
LimeWire.
no, I found there was like a backdoor link. It's funny to say that because I don't know anything about computers or any of this, but like someone on one, like the Are You Kind forum,
Okay.
um, what was the, yeah, I think it was just on Archive, and there was some where like you could replace the word in the link when you clicked on a show if it wasn't downloadable. You could, because some of them were and some of them weren't. If they were like put up, depending who put them up, and if you replace the word details in the HTML link, the URL, with the word download and like hit enter, it would pop up like these zip files, and you could download the shows. And so I did that just for hours and hours and hours, and I would go to like Staples or Best Buy or whatever and buy the towers of CDs. You remember that came on like the
Yeah,
post, like the thick,
yeah.
and I would just burn all of these shows to disc and put them in the binders with all the sleeves. And so I would bring these long story, long. I would bring these in the car with my driver's ed teacher and one other student. We would always like log hours in pairs, and I would play these CDs, and they would both be like, cool, dude. Like that's cool. That's cool that this show's from December of 1976, and and so when driver's ed was over, my driver's ed teacher pulled me aside and was like, yo, it was like a conflict of interest. And I don't know, I didn't want it to be weird or make other students feel left, whatever. But I'm like, you're the biggest Deadhead you'll ever meet. And I'm so stoked that you brought those CDs every time. And like, I look forward to your drives so much because like I could just sit back and you would drive and I'd play Grateful Dead. And so we sort of hit it off. And he was like, I'm a drummer and we should jam sometime. And so we got together with two friends of his, a bass player and another guitarist from his college days, and that was it. We had a band. That was like 2006, and we were in a band together till 2010. So we played a lot of
Oh,
shows
hell yeah.
together. I mean, not as many shows I'm playing now, but probably, I don't know, 30 shows a year or something. We did 100 something shows with those guys. That was my first real band. It was called Dead Man's Hand.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
and that was it. That turned into one of the members and I started Cats Under the Stars, and then Cats Under the Stars sort of became Dead Set partially with some other members, and Cats Under the Stars started hiring Melvin Seals to play with us for little runs and tours, and then Melvin hired me into JGB. But that was I mean, only a couple degrees of separation from my driver's ed teacher, really.
yeah, so let's talk about JGB, man. That's got to be, I mean, how old were you when you got hired into that band?
Um, I was 27 when I got hired
20.
in JGB.
Okay, so that's you're still pretty young to be playing with a legend like Melvin Seals under the name of Jerry Garcia, man. Kind of walk me
Crazy,
through
dude.
like yeah, walk me through like what was that like and how'd you deal with the pressure of it?
I couldn't believe it. I'm really lucky in that I didn't really get like the stress or anxiety gene. I say that thank God because the
The
music
no
industry
booze
is,
probably helps that.
yeah, it probably does. And thank God because the music industry is so stressful and can be such an anxiety inducing or just anxious place. So I'm really lucky in that I don't have that from literal like stage fright to just like logistical and politics and whatever. It can be a crazy intense place. So maybe that's helped me. I don't know, but yeah, Cats on the Stars hired Melvin for a handful of shows, maybe 10 shows over the year or two before JGB and before I joined JGB. And so Melvin and I hit it off well. We had a great time off stage too. We'd get good food together, and we like to listen to some of the same non-dead music, and we Melvin's a really easy guy to get along with. He's a really nice dude. And he's good at making people feel comfortable too. Not like in I don't think he's trying to, but Melvin's got like the most beautiful smile, and he's just personable and chill. He's just a regular cool dude. And so it was really easy to get along with Melvin, given all those factors. And I think that helped. Like we just became bros sort of before anything, with no pressure. Like I didn't think I would ever be in JGB, and I was so stoked just to have Melvin play with Cats on the Stars, and I was like, "Cool, this is great. My life can end right now. I have a JGB tribute, and I'm hanging out with Melvin Seals and playing shows with him. Like I'm good. Take me now, you know." And so I think that was cool. That kept the pressure off. I didn't really even see JGB in the radar, so I wasn't pushing or focusing on that. And it's funny. I was sort of involved with one of our singers in Cats on the Stars. Like she was kind of a girlfriend, kind of a singer. Like it was whatever. She was moving, and but we'd been hanging out, and Melvin called me one night, like in May or June of 2016, and I was hanging out with the singer from Cats on the Stars, my friend, and so I was like, oh, Melvin's calling. We're sitting in my living room, and I was like, Melvin's calling. His kid, like, no way. This is crazy. Like, why is Melvin calling me right now? He wants me to join JGB. He wants me to play with. Maybe he wants me to say. I was freaking out. I was like, maybe he just needs me for a gig. Maybe he want whatever. And so I answer, put it on the speaker, and Melvin was like, what was the name of that girl that sings with you? And I was like, no way. And he was like, I need her to sing for a show. And I was like, no, are you kidding me? I was like, picked up the call, looking at her, being like, watch this. And then sure enough, he was like,
Uno
what's their name?
reverse.
Yeah, and I was like, man, I feel like such an idiot right now. And so he asked her to sing at Jerry Jam in New Hampshire that summer, which is where we had played with Melvin initially and first hung out with him too. And Cats on the Stars was playing the first night, and JG was playing the next two nights. And so he wanted her to sing with him, as well as our other singer. And I was like, cool, great, good for you, that's awesome, and so a few weeks later, Melvin called again and he said, I think I'm looking for, I know. I was like, what, whose number do you want now? And he was like, no, I think I'm looking for a new guitarist for JGB and wondering if you'd want to play with me at Jerry Jam and see how it goes. And so yeah, of course I said absolutely, would love to. Oh my god, oh my god, and that was it. Those were like my rehearsals, the two nights at Jerry Jam. I'd never really hung. I'd been hanging with Melvin, but I'd never really hung with JP, the bass player, or Pete, the drummer. And we met at the band house. I mean, maybe I'd met them and said, hey, hi, bye a couple times, but we met at the band house and talked about a set list for 20 minutes and then went down and played. And that was it. I was in JGB. I guess the auditions went well and we all had a great time. And so I called Melvin the next week and I was like, yo, I'm looking at the website, I'm looking at your calendar, and you have like 48 more shows in 2016. And and Melvin, Sunshine and I were joking about it this weekend. Melvin just is like, can be so chill and lax, and like, you sort of have to pull like affirmatives out of him. And
Yeah.
I was like, just by the nature of his, whatever, he's not trying to be difficult or anything. He just is just a chill, whatever guy. And so I was like, I see you have all these dates. Do you want me to play those dates? And I was remember right where I was on the phone with him in my living room, and he was like, yeah, I think that'd be good. And I was like, all right, well, it's like 50 shows and it's JGB. It's like Terrapin Crossroads and the Capitol Theater. And, like, so do you want me on those shows? And eventually he was like, yeah, I want you on those shows. So I had to clear a bit of my calendar. I had some shows scheduled out with Cats on the Stars and whatever. But that was it. I was in JGB and we had a great band for a while, man. Cheryl and Shirley were in the band when I first started. Shirley Starks and Cheryl Rucker, and rest in peace, Shirley. I still do a bunch of work with Cheryl. She's one of my favorite people on earth. But they were in the band when we started, and then eventually Sunshine and Lady Chi joined the band in place of Cheryl and Shirley when their time came to an end, and it's just it was a good run, man. I loved my time in JGB. It was so much fun,
Do you
and
ever
we just
play
had
with
a
those
great
guys
thing now.
anymore?
Here and there,
Okay.
not a ton. We're all so busy, and I do like I play with JP, the bass player, the most. Um, and he's out in the Bay Area, and so when I'm doing a gig with Sunshine or when I'm out, whatever, I'll see him at a festival or we'll be on a gig together. And I love JP. He's such a great hang. He's such a nice guy, and his bass playing is so indicative of his personality. But he's like such a chill, even keeled dude, and just like his playing, it's just like he's there for you. You can rely on him. He's a great guy and great player. And Pete, the drummer, wonderful guy. He's super busy with Live Dead and Brothers. He plays with O'Teal a lot. Um, I don't think he and I have been on stage together since I left JGB. Seen him a handful of times, but yeah, I haven't gotten to play with Pete again for a while.
So now your like main project, the tour that you're on now, is Zach Nugent's Dead Set, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
So I want to transition into just some dead related questions. First one is you do a lot of Dead projects. How do you like channel honoring Jerry while still trying to make it your own?
Cool. I like that. So when I was growing up, I am self-taught and didn't take any guitar lessons, which might have a bit to do with why I'm so plateaued at very okay guitarist. But a lot of my self-teaching regimen or whatever you want to call it was learning Garcia stuff note for note, whether it was riffs, or improvised solos. And I don't believe in recreating like the improvised stuff note for note on stage. I don't think anybody really does. You know, like there's a lot of people out there who talk about like um, show like DSO or
Yeah.
whoever playing like note for note, but they're not playing note for note. I think maybe people maybe misunderstand or whatever, but there's no one really playing note for note Garcia solos or whatever. But and if there is, cool, that's great. But I've never really heard it, and I think people assume that happens more than
That
it
takes
does.
away from the improv of it. Like, it's not improv then.
Yeah, right, right. And that's like the whole thing is like the Dead loved. Someone asked, this is like a tangent, but it has to do with the whole improv thing, which I love so much. A friend, I can't remember who it was, maybe Goobs. Someone asked Bobby why they dumped Lost Sailor from the repertoire. And they're like, that's such a cool song. And like a lot of heads really look forward to it. And maybe it wasn't a Deadhead like archive favorite, but a lot of people really dug that. And it was a cool, and for me musically, I love that song. It's so much fun to play and so much fun to listen to. And Bobby's answer was that like the band his bandmates, the Grateful Dead, weren't playing after a few years of trying the song, weren't playing what he had heard in his head when he wrote the song, or like what he envisioned or what he wanted them to play. But it would have been so anti Grateful Dead for him to ask them to play a certain part that rather than doing that, he just dumped the song from the repertoire.
Hmm.
And that gives me goosebumps to
Yeah.
tell that, because it's so like what a cool piece, what a great song. He clearly worked on it for a long time, and it meant a great deal to him. Um, and yeah, he was like, rather than be like, Jerry, I was hoping you'd play this. He was like, nah, if it's not happening organically, then it's not the song for us. Which is so cool. I love that. I respect that so much. That's such a like selfless
Yeah.
move, you know? Um, and such an egoless. It's so cool. But anyway, I would learn lots of solos. I would sort of reverse engineer Jerry's playing. You know, I can probably play most of his studio solos note for note from memory because I drilled them in so much. But then made it a point not to play those on stage, like to purposely never touch those on stage because
Hmm.
I just don't really believe in that. And I'm sure that I steal phrases from Garcia solos all the time without even knowing it. But yeah, it just became all I wanted to do. It's still kind of all. I mean, I've written my own stuff and I like playing all sorts of stuff, but I really just like when I wake up in the morning, I go to my guitar room and grab a guitar and play some Dead tunes. It's like, you know, it's my church, and whether I'm learning it or performing it or just connecting with it, it's just part of my daily life, and has been since I was 12 years old.
Yeah. So you've listened to probably countless Grateful Dead shows, studio albums. Is there a specific era of the Dead that you're like, this is when they were really, really good, the best they were?
Oh yeah, unpopular opinion, but July of '89, I think, is
Okay.
I get it. I love '70s. Like when I listen to a set with a Spring '77 show, I'm like, oh, there's nothing better. Or when I listen to like a February '73 show, I'm like, this is as good as it gets. But yeah, it's really hard for me to pick a time, but more than anything, and there's great releases from that time too, like Trucking Up to Buffalo or Crimson White and Indigo are all like, actually Crimson White and Indigo is today in '89 '77. um and man, it's just, I don't know. They're firing on all cylinders. Jerry, I think like there was so much potential all along, and Jerry spent so much of the '80s in horrible shape, whether it was from partaking in things or just bodily health.
Yeah.
between his coma and just unhealthiness. Like, and Bobby talks about it a lot in all these documentaries, but there were times where like they thought Jerry was going to keel over on stage from the heat on a hot summer night, or times when Jerry just had a really hard time just making it through the show, let alone expressing himself clearly and
Yeah.
confidently. So by 89, 90, he really seemed to have cleaned up his act a bit. And so that was like the sweet before he got sort of went downhill again in the 90s. And to me, that was the sweet spot, is you have like the experience and knowledge and whatever of the 73 shows and the 77 shows and the 80 shows and the 67 shows, all that, which are amazing ingredients and should be making something incredible, which we didn't always get to hear because it was hindered. But I feel like when Jerry was like clean and healthy in 89 and spring of 90, we heard everything that he had become, like up to its full potential, you
Okay.
know? And I know it's not like, there's the age old, like Jerry wasn't the leader. It took all of the guys and all that. And it's true. But also I do know that like it was hard, from everything I've heard, it was hard not to look up to Jerry and to think of him as like a big brother or a leader of some sort. And so I think, even though the Grateful Dead are all such amazing musicians and a very capable band in their own right without Jerry Garcia. I think when Jerry got healthy and was doing well and was being trying to be or close to being his best self in 89 or 90, I think that was really inspiring for everybody. I think that was inspiring for the band to be like, this is our dude, and he's goosebumps. This is our dude, and he's doing well, and like it's awesome. It feels good. Like it must have been such a drag to watch Jerry, your brother, who you love, go through all this stuff, in the 80s and I mean all throughout 70s, 80s, 90s, but particularly mid 80s. And I think it was really exciting for them, um, to to see that and to have Jerry firing on all cylinders like that, or close to all cylinders. I also have heard that when Toucher Gray came out and all the touch heads started following whatever, and they're like when that wave of popularity came, supposedly there were lots of people going to shows chasing Toucher Gray, and either like wouldn't get it because the Dead was like, all right, well, we don't, we're
Yeah.
not whoever, we don't play Toucher Gray every night, and would be like bummed because they didn't get it, or would go in like an off night in 87 or whatever and be like, this band sucks. And so that was getting back from what I've been told, that was getting back to the Dead. And in 89, they started rehearsing a little bit more. And then
Mm.
like winter of 89 into 90, they went to the studio on Front Street and rehearsed everything. They were rehearsing like Scarlet Begonias and, the whatever classic Dead tunes
Songs
you
they played
imagine,
1,000 times.
songs they could play in their sleep. They were like, let's touch these up. And supposedly
Yeah.
they went through everything. And that's why the spring tour of 90 is like so clean and sharp, and like the recordings are great, but they're playing that spring 90 box set, that whole tour is the soundboards, um audience recordings are awesome and give you the vibe of the show and of the room, but soundboards are great because they don't hide anything, it's like a
Yeah.
direct line to the mic. And I always go to a soundboard when I want to know how they were really playing that night. And those are some of the most beautiful recordings from like the upstate New York and all of that from spring 90. And supposedly they were like all really excited and inspired and were rehearsing. So cool.
Now, to go off of that and to make this question even harder, if a genie or a time traveler came up to you and they said, "Hey, you
Mhm.
can go to one Grateful Dead show," what Grateful Dead show are you gonna choose?
One Grateful Dead show.
Yep.
Um Hmm. You know what show I really love, and this is like so kind of anti what I was just saying, but I have a reason. 7878 at Red Rocks.
Okay.
And it's a release too. It's like kind of, pretty mainstream as far as
Yeah.
Dead shows go, and I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of hate for not picking a more
Fuck 'em.
obscure. um, but just I love the energy of that show. It's so great. The estimated is like out of control on that, and the playing is so beautiful and thoughtful. I feel like 77, 78 was like the last of the like the consistently the getting being good consistently, you know?
Hmm.
Like that was supposedly the stress of the Grateful Dead movie, of producing it is like really what led Garcia to to go to a darker place and feel a lot more weight on his shoulders. And I guess that supposedly was just a transitional time for him. But 77 obviously was an incredible time. But that Red Rocks 78, it's just an amazing recording. The energy seems great. The band's being very silly between songs. That's where actually before that estimated, that's where someone says like Mickey Hart for president, and Bobby's like, I'm moving to Australia. And then he does this great, it's I love it. He in the count, the estimated profit is in 7, 8 times. So you count to seven instead of counting like to fours. And and in I think it's on six, but Bobby goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He does this really, really silly count. And I love it. It's just like great energy. You can tell they're having fun and they're all happy. And there's some great pictures for that from that night. And Jerry's got a huge grin on his face, which, as we all know, was always special to see. You know, we're always
Yeah.
getting a lot of animosity or animated behavior out of Jerry. And so it's always fun to see that. And yeah, if listening back to it, it's great. It's just such a good show. And it's um are you familiar with the Grateful Dead Time Machine?
Is that you like pick a random date?
So it's awesome, dude. It's a gadget. I can't remember the dude's name who came up with it, but it's like a little Raspberry Pi computer with a little
Yeah.
screen, whatever. And it just taps into archive, but it's like a fun little countertop way to like it's got three knobs on it. You can like dial in year and day and month and whatever. And you can also randomize. You can just be like play any Grateful Dead recording from archive in whatever random order. And I often do that in my house, and without fail. They'll play some whatever in El Paso from, or something random will come up and I'll be like, this is an awesome. And I go over to it and it's like from one of these shows that I love.
Yeah.
And it's cool. I mean, and in some instances, like I know if it's a Garcia, whatever, if it's a Morning Dew, then I'll recognize the riffs and whatever. But some stuff like Bobby tunes, cowboy tunes are like, I don't pay as close attention to the playing as I do to like the spiritual Jerry stuff for me. Anyway, just blindly I'll be like, oh, this is a great one, this is an awesome show, what is this? And it's like almost always a show that I already love you know
Yeah, that's the second time that's been brought up on the podcast, so I think I need to get myself one.
Get one, dude. I have a bunch of stuff. I bought a bunch of them when I was making them as gifts a couple years ago, so I'll make you one and send one to you.
Okay, yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, totally.
So sticking on just Dead stuff here for a little bit, are there any Grateful Dead songs that are like to a non-musician's ear, it's like, oh, that's probably not that hard to play, but then as a musician, you sit down and play it, and it's deceptively very hard to play.
Yes, absolutely. There's a couple. There's like the difficult songs to play, like Slipknot is very notey, and it's like all
Hmm.
these diminished runs and weird stretches that if your dexterity's not up to par, that's like Slipknot is one of the weirder songs and just like harder, whatever muscle memory things to get down, I guess. But what's really hard for me, and Jerry was such an expert at it, is taking like three chords, like Standing on the Moon is so slow. It's not even that fast. It's so slow. And the chords, the whole verse are G, C, and D. Like the first three chords anyone learns on guitar.
Yep.
And he had, it's G, C, D, and it's that slow. You're playing like that basically. But Jerry has this way of taking like three chord songs and at that tempo making it the most confusing thing to play. I have goosebumps again. It is crazy how, like now it's muscle memory and I know the song so well, but I remember like first starting, and if I play with like a sub or even sometimes my band who they're amazing and they've really taken this music under their wing and know it so well. But there's something to be said for listening to Standing on the Moon since you're 12 or since you're 5, and then learning it and knowing it for 5 years or whatever. And so I still hear people. I don't think it happens to me anymore, but it happened for a long time. Just like can't get that progression down,
Yeah.
and I don't know how Jerry did it. Another one is Staggerly. It's not as bad, but same thing. Like it's like all this like hopping back and forth between the verse is just two chords, G and D, with like a little C thrown in there. Same three chords. And it can be so people are like, nope, I'm totally lost. I have no idea. And Ruben and Charisse is the same way. It's a little more, it's a little quicker. The chord changes are quicker, but the whole verse is only three chords, and it's so hard to keep on track. And I think that's my favorite stuff that Jerry did. That's the coolest stuff is to take these like basic things that should be easy to play and just weave them and build them in a way that's so like so intricate in its own right. So maybe a weird or underdog answer or whatever, but I think like Jerry's progressions of
Okay.
basic chords can be the toughest things to play. And like Crazy Fingers is a very chordy song. There's a lot, whereas Standing on the Moon has three chords in the verse. Crazy Fingers, I don't know how many different chords there are in the verse, maybe a dozen or 15. And they're weird, like you're sort of walking all over the fretboard, but it makes sense. And like it's not the same experience at all. And you don't really get tripped up. You just sort of got to remember the chords, which is different. But yeah, I'm curious to see if anyone else chimes in on that or what other people feel, or if it's just me. But I know it resonates with my bandmates too. And the way Jerry could confuse you with three basic chords is just so awesome, amazing.
Now, on the opposite end of that, I have recently gotten acoustic guitar, still learning chords and strumming
Cool.
patterns and stuff. What's a really easy one to learn I can start on?
Ripple.
Ripple? Okay.
That was the first one I learned. Two chords to the verse, and then you got two more chords in the bridge in the Ripple and Still Water. But that's great and stuff to work on. Like Jerry was a very percussive guitarist. Um, I often theorize, this is a little tangent, but I would like to say just to see what your thoughts are and anyone who listens. I think that like Phil played bass so much like a guitar. And he was such a melodic and notey bass player, and often in a higher register than most bass players would play. That it pushed Jerry. I feel like it pushed Jerry
Mm,
into this role of almost sometimes being the bass player, and a lot of Jerry's riffs and regular like hooks and songs are reminiscent of a bass line and very rhythmic and percussive. And it sort of opened up this territory for Phil to at least while Jerry was singing, for Phil to like play the pretty solo-y, noodly kind of stuff. And
yeah.
Jerry held down the rhythm and um the the bars, I guess, the counting. I play a lot with my buddy Josh Weinstein, who's an amazing bass player, and he's a very groove oriented. He's like not school of Phil for most of his. He is like does an amazing job with the Phil stuff, but his roots are like way more groove oriented stuff, and we do a lot of duo shows together. I love playing these acoustic duo shows with him, and we go out. We got the same brain. It's amazing. We share a brain when we're on stage. It's such a cool thing. And we had a long ride home last night from the gig together actually, and we were talking about the like Phil's style with a drummer and with a band as opposed to just like out in space with just a guitar. And we were laughing because he was like, I try to play Phil stuff like while you're soloing. I've been trying it lately when it's just the two of us. And he was like, and we get like completely derailed. And thank God we really do like share a brain, because we always like will find the one somehow together and we'll like be cracking up about it. But yeah, he'll start playing like Phil stuff or Phil style stuff or a Phil line that he learned or whatever. And it really like I lean on him a lot when I'm soloing and it's just the two of us, and I lean on his groove. And when he does that Phil thing, it's like, all right, we're just like we're in outer space now. I feel like we're like two objects like floating away, maybe back together, whatever. And eventually we like collide again, and we're back off, but back off to the races. But it's interesting, yeah. I think Jerry and Phil both pushed each other and opened avenues for each other to play the way they did, and that was one of the most important relationships in the Grateful Dead, I
Yeah,
think.
for
You
sure.
know? Yeah.
One last Grateful Dead question, and then I want to go into the show at the Ecology Center and then a little on your guitar collection as well. But correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like most of your projects are Grateful Dead centric. Do you,
Yeah.
and I know you mentioned you've done some original writing. Do you have any plans to do like an independent project with, all originals, or maybe a different project that's not about the Grateful Dead?
Yeah, for sure. I do a lot of when I do my solo acoustic shows, some of them, depending on the venue and what I'm hired for, some of them are very Grateful Dead centric. But sometimes I do. I just did one the other night with no Grateful Dead music at all, and it was everything from John Prine and whatever that kind of Americana stuff to original music, and it's really fun for me to do that stuff. I think for years I felt like people know me for the Dead stuff, and like I don't really have a right to play not like I always feel sheepish to play non-Dead stuff at a show because I feel like people are probably spending money on a ticket expecting Grateful Dead out of me just because that's what I've always, that's
Yeah.
all I've ever done. And so I'm always like, I don't want to like disappoint and not deliver Dead. So that's something I think about a lot. But it's nice. There's a place in town actually where I live, and the guy, the owner, is not a Deadhead at all. He doesn't. There's no Grateful Dead allowed in the building, and he's a cool dude, and the place is really cool. He's really chill. Like, don't get any wrong ideas about him based on that. But yeah, for like months I was like, let's book something, and he was like, nah, yeah, man, we'll see, whatever. And there's like other people playing there all the time, and it's a small town, and I have a lot of fans in this area. Like, this is where I grew up doing my thing. Like, all my oldest supporters and friends and fans are here. And for months I was like, I'm telling you, like, if you book me, not, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but it's a small town, it's a small bar, it's a, like, you'll have a great night. There'll be a lot of my family would fill the place,
Yeah.
and so he was like, I don't know. And when I hit him up and I was like, I'll play no Grateful Dead. I was like, I'll play no Grateful Dead at all. And he was like, cool. How about June 16th or whatever it was? I immediately gave me a date. And so that was the first gig I think I've ever played where there's no Grateful Dead allowed. I've played weddings and stuff where like they want a bunch of Grateful Dead, but they also give us like the
Yeah.
Paul Simon songs and whatever. But where we have to mix up. But that was no Grateful Dead allowed. But anyway,
That's hilarious.
I've dipped the toes in with like the Zach Nugent band, doing no Grateful Dead stuff, and we did a handful of shows this spring, and it was really fun. It's fun to write stuff, and it's fun to play just music. It's the Dead has a great catalog, but it's also easy to just get into a rut, stylistically and set list wise, and so I really enjoy playing non Grateful Dead stuff every now and then. And there's like I'll take the Jerry guitar tone to the grave and to any desert island with me. Like, that's the one, that's the guitar tone for me. But it's also fun. There's so many other styles and tones out there. As a guitarist, it's really fun to open up and like just play some shreddy stuff or
Yeah.
some rock and roll. Like the Dead's rock and roll, I suppose, but like there's other rock and roll out there.
Yeah. And while we're on the topic of playing and shredding, Electric on the Farm, July 27th. Music Never Stopped. We partner with them.
Hell yeah.
He's the one who told me about this. I wish I could get out there and see one of these shows, but since I'm not able to, can you kind of tell me like what that Ecology Center is like, what that show's going to be like with, I know there's people from Grateful Shred, people from Mason's Children, so it's kind of like an all-star team playing up there. What's that show going to be like?
Dude, we did it last year and it was so special. I think I jumped on sort of last minute last year. I think I can't remember who was going to do it, but they weren't able to make the gig for some reason. And Music Never Stopped hit me up maybe a month or two out, and I was available, and um, so I jumped on board, and I didn't really know what I was getting into. I mean, I had an idea, and I saw what was advertised, but the Ecology Center is in the middle of San Juan Capistrano, and it's sort of like a, suburban area, whatever. It's not like, I wouldn't call it countryside. And I think I want to say it's 27 or 28 acres or something like that the Ecology Center has right in the middle of town. And you step onto it, and it's like, as soon as you walk from the parking space onto the dirt, the dust, you're like in another dimension. It's so cool. They've got like vineyards and like a pizza oven and a farm stand and all these amazing buildings and art everywhere. And it's such like just such a peaceful, clean, like earthy place. It feels so good to be there. I've only been there once, and I like didn't want to leave. Um, and it was just such a cool vibe. And I'm sure people see the videos. People hit me up. My friends hit me up all the time about how awesome the videos from last year look. And there's like there's a cool space in front of the stage. I don't know, holds 500 people or something, but we had more than that show up, a good deal more than that. And behind the stage are like the vineyards and more fields, and so people just sort of flooded that area. And I always feel weird comparing anything to like a Dead show or whatever, but everybody, whenever Music Never Stopped or I post that footage from that, people are like, I didn't know if this was like the Veneta footage, the naked guy on the
Yeah, yeah,
pole,
yeah.
and or like modern footage, because like all the footage is nicely filtered and edited, and it's got
Yeah.
like a vintage warm feel to it. And so people are like, I had to watch for a minute to see if this was Veneta or what, and that's such a cool thing. I mean, it's not even a compliment because it's nothing we created. It's like the scene there created it, so we can't take any credit for it. But what a cool thing, like to have people confused.
Yeah.
And I can see why. Like being on stage, I was looking around, being like, "Is this Veneta or is it?" And
Everybody spinning shit.
dude, it was so cool, and everyone was so nice and so friendly and so warm, and just like, yeah, all egos left at the door, and it really is like stepping into another dimension. And the Ecology Center is such a they're such gracious hosts, and they're so friendly and welcoming and hospitable. Every last the merch is awesome there. Like they've got everything figured out. Like I saw, yeah, I walked by the merch and I was like, I need one of everything that you guys have here. And
We
they're so sweet too. They sent me a box of, like, this winter. They sent me some honey and some jam and the stuff that they make at the Ecology Center. And it's just so nice. It's like such a sweet thing to do.
Yeah, we gotta get back in that group chat and convince B to fly me out there to see a show there.
Let's go, dude. I'll convince him. Let's do it. Yeah, I'd love to have you. That'd be fun, man. You'd love it.
Yeah, I would.
And it's an amazing crew this year. The band's going to be great. I think I've played with almost everybody a few times,
Reed
and
Mathis is on it.
Reed's great, man. Reed's
Yeah.
so awesome. And I don't know. I think I've done a couple of gigs with Reed on guitar, but I don't know if I've ever played a gig with him on bass actually, which I'm looking forward to. And we got Sunshine and Cheryl on it, my
Nice.
sisters from JGB, and we have so much fun together, and the vibe is great. And like, there's such one, Cheryl is such a sweet, wonderful person, and she's like just open arms to anybody. She's so welcoming and so loving, and that goes so far on stage, like just knowing that she's two people over for all of us. I think I'm sure we all feel that way. And Sunshine too. Sunshine lives up to her name more than maybe anyone or anything I've ever met. And she's like the brightest and most cheerful and inspiring and exciting person. She's awesome. She finds the light in everything. And yeah, anytime I'm like, oh, I can't do this drive right now, or like, oh, I got to get up and go to the airport at 2 o'clock I'm going to be in Denver for 6 hours and get back on an airplane. Like, just
Yeah.
tell me I don't have to go do it. And Sunshine's not like, not only do you have to go do it, you're going to crush. She's just like the best pep team. And yeah, Sunshine's amazing. She's my sister. And I'm so stoked to have Cheryl and Sunshine on it. And Alex, yeah, and Adam. It's going to be a great crew. And some of these, yeah, like some of these cats I played with 10 years ago, but not in a long time. So we're kind of getting the band together and back together at the same time. It'll be fun.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah,
That'll be
man.
awesome, man. So
Yeah.
last question before we wrap up, and it's kind of gets a couple questions inside of it, but as accomplished of a musician as you are, you might be a more accomplished guitar collector. You've got some pretty crazy ones. I know there's a Tony Rice one you got a couple years ago. What got you into just wanting to collect these guitars, and what are like your two favorite guitars, you think?
I'm super lucky to get to be the, whatever you want to call it, the maybe the steward of these instruments, because I feel like they're all going to be here longer than we will. And so I don't ever really feel like a guitar is like mine per se. I just kind of feel like I'm watching over it while I'm here.
Babysitting it.
Yeah, and I'm so lucky to get to do that. I also I like to wheel and deal. Like, I'm always selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace. I'm always buying stuff on Facebook Marketplace to be like, oh, that's cheap. This person, whatever. I'll flip that, or like, oh, I've always wanted to own a solo stove. I'll try it. If I don't like it, I'll sell it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm always wheeling and dealing, and I'm good. I don't know. The thing about like the guy turning like a paperclip into a house. Like trades bigger and just keep making. And so I'm good at turning a paperclip into a house, I guess, because
Okay.
I don't come from like a wealthy family. I don't have any money myself, and
Makes two of
I'm
us, buddy.
yeah, like I think people assume sometimes because I collect guitars and like I wheel and deal and that kind of stuff, that like that comes easily for me, or that I have the means to just do that on whatever basis I want. And I wish I did, but I'm fine not having gobs of money like that. But anyway, I'm good at turning a paperclip into a house, and so I wheel and deal a lot, and I've acquired a lot of guitars and other gear and cool stuff that way. I worked a lot over the years with the Grateful Guitars Foundation.
Okay.
And Andy and the foundation hooked me up with multiple guitars. And a lot of my Garcia and Grateful Dead centric stuff came through them. We could do a whole podcast on just those guys and how amazing they are for the scene and all the things they do. Um, but okay, so my favorite guitars. Um, I have a 1943 Martin D28. That's for like Martin collectors and acoustic guitar nuts. They know that wartime Martins, like really pre-war up through most of the war, were really desirable guitars for a few reasons. There most of the guys in the factory went off to war, and so there were like a lot of women and children working in the factory. And I mean, I don't know about a lot. I think there were like 10 employees total at that point, whatever. But there were women were handling and building the guitars, and so some say that there was more finesse and more care put into building the guitars, and just like had like a woman's touch, and was they were more carefully built,
Yeah.
like so maybe there's something there, I don't know. And like guitars, Martin didn't incorporate truss rods into their adjustable truss rods into their necks like most guitars have, until like on a regular basis until like the mid 80s. And so in during the wartime, pre-war and wartime, they had a steel rod down the neck to hold it stable, but they were rationing all of the steel for the war. And so these guitars not only have like plastic tuning pegs, but also they used an ebony T-bar down the neck, to hopefully stabilize it. Which sounds crazy, but if you think about it, like a 2x4 is really floppy, but if you try to bend a 2x4 on its skinny side, it's actually really stable.
Yeah.
And so they did a T-bar, so you sort of had that both ways. And that resulted in not only a really stable guitar, but also it was like a fraction the weight of a steel bar. So these guitars are like featherweight. And the lighter the guitar, the better it sounds, especially when you're talking acoustic. Anyway, I could do probably a whole podcast episode on Martin D28s, but that guitar is really, 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 really incredible. It was a once in a lifetime to acquire it, and I could never get another one. They're very valuable and very hard to come by. And that thing just screams as soon as you open the case. It does anything you want it to. It'll scream or get as quiet and dynamic and beautiful as you can imagine. It's really awesome. I hope that we're in the same place, or you're up in my neck of the woods sometime, and you can come geek out on some guitars, and
Yeah,
that's
that would be
the first
cool.
one I'll show you. And then for electrics, I have an American Telecaster that I got when I was 16, just a basic.
Yeah.
American is what you want. It's like that's the beginning, like just an American standard is the beginning of like the quality. Although yeah, some of the next tier down is the Mexican Fender factory, and some of the Mexican Strats and Tellys are better than some of the Americans, so I don't know. But I got an American Telly when I was 16 for my 16th birthday, a red one with a white pick guard, which I did not want, but it was the best one in the store. I liked it more than any other, and I kept saying to the guys like, I want this sunburst one or this black one, but I like the red one. And how could that be? They're all the same guitar. And the guys at the store were like, no, every guitar is completely different. And if you like the red one, then that's the one for you. And so that was the one for me. It's an exceptional guitar. It's unfortunately bright red with a white pickguard, but amazing guitar. So that means a lot to me. And yeah, otherwise my Scarlet Fire guitars, my Jerry guitars. I have a Tiger and a Rosebud from Scarlet Fire out of Dallas, and those came through the Grateful Guitars Foundation, and they're just like incredible. I've been
Yeah.
lucky to play a lot of Jerry's guitars. I've been really blessed to get my hands on a bunch of them, and I've played pretty much every replica out there, and there's some really janky ones and some really awesome ones, and nothing comes close to what Leo's doing at Scarlet Fire. They're just like
Shout out Leo.
they're yeah, dude. Leo's a monster. Leo's just like I feel like Leo's just like visiting the Earthlings, the humans, for a while, and building guitars, and then he's gonna just leave us at some point and go back to whatever planet he came from. His guitars are incredible, and his wife Wendy is so sweet. They're just like class act operation down there. They're so
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, they're awesome.
Hell yeah, man. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I've learned a bunch today, and it's been really cool for me because, like I said, saw you 2, 3 years ago in St. Pete, and you
So
guys
cool.
blew my mind. Started this podcast. It came full circle for me. So
That's
really
so cool, man.
appreciate you hopping on. And before we wrap up, is there any? This is coming out probably a week or so before the Ecology Center show. So is there any dates or anything you plug before we let you go?
Yeah, we're doing a run that I get super excited about every year, which is our Days Between run.
Okay.
Um, we've got shows August 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 7th, 8th, 9th, and then one more tacked on the 16th, which is outside the Days Between, but it's one of my favorite shows that we do every year, which is the Grateful Camp out up in Maine. It's an awesome festival. Um, and most of those shows on the Days Between run are in New England. We're pretty much staying home. We dip down to New Jersey and stuff, but I'll spare you the dates right or the details right now because I'll just get them wrong without looking at my website. But they're all up there, and the Days Between is always just like a really emotional and special time. I think like Deadheads around the world
Yeah.
set those dates aside and are like, all right, I'm doing shows or family or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be going out to shows, but it's just, I feel like those are like sacred days that are set aside and treated with a little extra care. So the people who do make it to our shows are really, really, really there on a spiritual level, and it just feels good. The more people are invested in a show for us on stage, the more fun it is to play.
Yeah.
And so the Days Between shows are always so much fun. I'm super stoked about those.
Hell yeah. Any plans to come to Asheville soon?
Nothing on the books, but it's funny. I was talking to someone yesterday who was like, "Please, please come to Asheville." We used to play Salvage Station, rest in peace,
Yeah.
and but there's the music hall, right? Asheville Music Hall.
Yeah, there's a music hall. There's a couple, I think, new venues. I'm still pretty new here, but I think there's Third Room, which is a newer venue, so there's definitely some options.
Yeah, man, we do well down there, and I love the Carolinas. I'd love to come play down
Yeah.
there. Asheville's killer. It feels like I spent a lot of time and lived for a long time in Burlington up here, and definitely sister cities.
Oh yeah, man. Well, hopefully we can figure something out soon, and I'd love to do this again in person.
Hell yeah, Clint, let's do it anytime.
You just got jammed.
Welcome back from that interview with Mr. Zach Nugent. How about some of those guitar stories he has? Hopefully we can link at some point and check out some of those that Martin he was talking about would be sick. But yeah, man, that was a cool interview with Zach Nugent. On Thursday we have Wright Thompson, who may be a new name for a lot of you guys, but when I was a kid I wanted to be on ESPN, so it was a really cool interview for me. He's a senior writer for ESPN. He wrote an article, like did a whole project with Mickey Hart. He's an author as well. He's a huge Deadhead. We get into like what got him into the Dead and kind of his journey and what other music he likes. He thinks Derek Trucks is the best guitar player in the world. So that was a fun little chat we had too. And I think it's a really cool interview. Just kind of the clash of sports and the music that I love into one. It was a sick opportunity for me. So yeah, man, good week for the Grateful Dead folks. Maybe learn something new if you're not a big Grateful Dead fan. And yeah, so good week ahead. Go buy your All Jammed Up ticket if you haven't yet. Have a great week. We'll see you on Thursday. And remember, wherever you are right now is exactly where you're supposed to be.
Come along, have a drink with me. We can talk about the world and how the world is turned so slow. Day and night I found cars they drive and planes they fly. I look into the sun and the sky, you're so bright. It's you that I have found. Oh, and I know there's not much longer now. Or if the world would just slow down. The stars, they sail across the sky, and I could watch you dance all through the night. When the rhythm is right, oh, and I know the sun is rising now. Or if the world would just slow down. So you move with me and I'll move with you, and I could spend the rest of my life by your side. It's you that I have found. Oh, and I know not much longer now. Or if the world would just slow down. There's not much longer now. Or if the world would just slow down.